It's a pleasant welcome to another edition of the Star Good Morning Show here on Star Television. We broadcasting live from our Media One Center, 3 Bama Street, Brookfields in Freetown. My name is Abdul Rahman Kamau. The Anti-Corruption Amendment Act of 2019, being an amendment to the EFCC Act of 2008, provides, among other things, increased penalties for offences under the Act, strengthen protection for witnesses and whistleblowers, and provide the ACC with alternative to prosecution. All of these development trajectory became a reality with a new leadership that has injected new energy, increased public confidence, and restored faith in the Anti-Corruption Commission. As noted by His Excellency the President Julius Maada Bio, that corruption is a fight we must win, and it is a fight we will win. In the views of many, the battle has not ended the war against corruption yet. To talk more on these measures of achievement, marking a second anniversary since he was appointed as head of anti-graft, and recount on the challenges, I have with me in the studio the ACC boss, lawyer Francis Ben Kelfala. Great to have you in the studio, sir.
Thank you, Abdurrahman. I'm
2
happy
years
to be here.
since your appointment as head of anti-graft,
Yes.
a very strategic office in the fight against corruption. What really has changed? Where are we as a nation in the fight against corruption?
Well, it's been 2 years. I must firstly extend my thanks and appreciation to the president who appointed me 2 years ago and has continued to repose confidence in me and support my work. I must thank the staff of the ACC who bought into the vision to take the Anti-Corruption Commission and the country to another level in the fight against corruption. I should also thank the government and people of Sierra Leone, which includes the media, civil society, and all other stakeholders in the fight against corruption for their unwavering support and commitment to what we are doing in trying to control corruption. It has been a very wonderful 2 years in the fight against corruption in every way you can imagine. When I came in, we introduced the Radical Transparency Drive that builds the fight against corruption, the pillars of investigation, prosecution, public education, and prevention. And those pillars were intertwined in such a way that the results were almost immediately coming in. We have more cases being investigated. We have more results in terms of prosecution. Back-to-back 2 years, very high prosecution rate than ever before. We have a lot more prevention measures being deployed within the system. We have a lot more proactive anti-corruption action being taken. I mean, you hear about the Scorpio Squad and the exploits they are having and how that is creating an impact into the country. And generally, we have had a very beautiful shift in the perception of the people. The confidence in the Anti-Corruption Commission to lead the fight against corruption shot up massively. It used to be as low as 19% by 2017. Now it's at 92%, which is an amazing feat. All global and national indexes and those who measure corruption have shown that there is a move in a positive direction. For example, as you are aware, for the first time Sierra Leone passed back-to-back the MCC Control of Corruption scorecard. First, by 2017, before I come in, it was 49%. By 2018, when I was there, it was 71%. By the time we got to 2019, it now sits comfortably at 79%, which is extremely high. I mean, we have never gotten to such heights. If you go to Transparency International, the most respected corruption perception index, for the first time, we scored the highest score ever as a country in that index. We jumped to 33%, which we have never reached as a country. And that made us to leapfrog 10 other countries in the world, not just Africa, in terms of corruption control, and position us comfortably in a more respectable position, and we continue to build on that. Afrobarometer came in, government, the citizens' confidence in the fight against corruption, government's effort in the fight against corruption across Africa. We were number 3 in Africa. That was a major quantum leap in where we are. I mean, there are many. You go to Freedom House, every Mo Ibrahim index, every institution that measures the fight against corruption shows that there is something we are doing in Sierra Leone which is working.
This is where I bring in the question: how did this happen? That seemed to many people that is pretty much uniquely inspiring.
Yes, I mean it's a the formula really is simple. I have always said, even before I came in, and of course I've said it in this video, that certain factors have to be in place for you to succeed in fighting corruption. Those factors are a sine qua non, and I have been preaching it across Africa to the world whenever I go to conferences. And the formula is very simple: you need a strong presidential will. The presidential will has to be separated from the political will. The president has to stand with you in the fight against corruption. If the president is not there, you're wasting your time. Okay? Then you have the political will. The political will is all other political actors, the judiciary, the legislature, the government ministries, MDAs, departments and agencies. Those have to be in place. Okay? That is factor number 2. Factor number 3 is that there has to be a strong law that supports your effort. That is why when I came in, one of the projects that I embarked on was to identify the loopholes in our laws and to reform them. And we were able to develop one of the strongest anti-corruption laws in Africa by the 2019 amendment that came into force. But even before that, our legislation in Sierra Leone was among the strongest in the world when it comes to fighting corruption. It was just a question of moving it forward. So factor number 3 is that there had to be a good law. Factor number 4 is the courage of the anti-corruption fighters, the courage and integrity of the anti-corruption fighters. So I lead in the fight against corruption. If people believe that I have the moral reputation, or the reputation or the belief that I can truthfully lead the fight against corruption, it is very important to what we do, because that credibility is important in the fight itself. Lastly, and most importantly, the buy-in of the people, and the people includes the media, the civil society, all other actors outside of the political arena who now support the effort. And this is what has fallen into place very well in Sierra Leone. That is the foundation. It is based on that foundation now that we have engineered the fight against corruption, relying on the courage and integrity of the staff of the ACC. We have implemented projects. For example, you notice that our public education drive, which involves you, is very robust. I mean, for the first time, you know the kinds of reforms we have brought in terms of giving the public information, bringing them along. We even have a high-level panel of media practitioners where we sit down, you are one of them. We discuss issues of corruption openly and fairly. You bring your own views, which you take on board. That is there. Investigation itself is going. We made sure that there is proper training for our team so that when they go in, they come with when our team investigates. That is why people have been asking, how are you recovering money from people who are corrupt? This does not happen anywhere in Africa, where people who are corrupt will come back and say, yes, I stole, here it is. It's because of the quality of investigation that is coming out of the Anti-Corruption Commission. If you look at the evidence yourself, you can advise yourself to pay and not take chances of going to court. But also, when we go to court, our chances of success are very high. In 2018, we had a 100% conviction rate. 2019, out of 20 cases that were charged to court, we have 16 straight convictions. These are really high statistics that are there that show the prevention measures that we are doing. We are building an anti-corruption fight that is not fire brigade. We are not waiting for fire to be there before we jump in. We are not waiting for the ambulances to come in when the fire is already blazing. We are deploying the fire extinguishers now. That is why in MDAs we have integrity management committees who are like internal anti-corruption drives in addition to the audit systems in those institutions to fight against corruption. We are being very proactive. The Scorpion Squad is on standby. The moment they say there's something happening there, checkpoints, people are taking money, they go there and arrest. People are doing something at an MDA, they go there and arrest. So these are all things that are happening that really, really have created the effect that we are enjoying in Sierra Leone now, and the success that we are having is all predicated on all these.
Mr. Commissioner, let me recall your words that there has been some massive, impressive prosecution rate at court level.
Yes.
But what seems to be, in the views of many people, a rather delicious irony is that when once there is a case that the ACC tend to lose in courts, so many people seem to be making a kind of noisy jollification, as if your investigation team don't seem to be working in any of these. But less of it when cases were being won.
I don't understand your question.
In other
Are
words,
you saying we are not winning cases in court?
in a situation where you lose a case in court, people make noise.
Oh
change the
yes,
color
I
flag.
mean,
But in a situation where
You succeed.
you succeed, there is less of any publicity.
oh, that is the problem, because we are operating in a very cynical society. Okay, it is not any fault of theirs. They are just afflicted by mass cynicism. They do not see any good coming out of anything. So when good happens,
I borrow words chronic societal cynicism.
chronic societal cynicism. So they are looking for the downfall of things. They do not really believe in good coming out of anything. They have suspicion of the activities of every public servant, even with your best effort. So it is not the fault of anybody. So when you do good things, for example, on social media platforms, when we put out all our press releases on conviction, sometimes nobody even comments. Nobody says anything. We put out 15 press releases of conviction. Sometimes we do so back to back, day after day, that people are convicted. Nobody says anything. The day one person is discharged, everybody will jump on it in that group. The ACC is losing cases. Oh, the ACC is not doing this. But there have been 15 convictions before this one. Where were you? Were you under a rock? I have seen people sit down, even on television, including your television. They sit down there. Oh, the ACC is losing cases. How can we be losing cases when we have won 16 and only lost 4? The statistics is there. In 2018, when did you hear of ACC losing a case? At least when I was there. It never happened. So where do they come from, this thing that they are saying the ACC is losing cases? Because one judge looks at the Mikhail Mansari case and discharges 3 people in that case, saying that they don't have a case to answer, just one case. In fact, even the case itself has not finished. The case continues against Victor Foe and others who are still standing trial. But you see people, educated people who know better, sit down and say the ACC is losing cases because of that one case. It's unbelievable. But like I said, I understand these things. It's chronic societal cynicism. It's because as a result of a prolonged breach of social contract between those who occupy public offices and the people. So they are suspicious. Even when good is happening, they are waiting. They are on the edge, waiting for bad. And when the bad happens, everybody jumps. It's like what happened with the Cotton Tree incident. You saw how the entire country jumped all over the place. They even forgot what the teachers were doing. They were even calling for my head. They could have preferred. In fact, I was the Barabbas of the country at that time.
Well, in the views of the commission, the Human Rights Commission of Sierra Leone, the outcome was a product of a bad decision.
That is how they have said it. That is why we have institutions. We all have interrelations.
Guilt without a due process.
That is what they have not investigated it, first of all. But that is what they said. And it's an institution. They are responsible for human rights. We are responsible for fighting corruption. I have always said that there is a serious disconnect globally, not just in Sierra Leone, because we have not been able to delineate the boundaries of the intersection between human rights and the fight against corruption. The fight against corruption is worse than coronavirus, it's worse than Ebola, it's worse than anything. When there was terrorism in America after September 11, the boundaries of human rights were shifted in such a way that even the Supreme Court of the United States could not agree that Guantanamo Bay was a bad thing. All kinds of applications went before them. All kinds of human rights applications. Even though they were torturing people there, the Supreme Court of the U.S. could not say it was a human rights violation, because that was a calamity that afflicted the people. The boundaries of human rights needed to be delineated. The fight against corruption is a calamity. Corruption is a calamity. It has killed more people than any disease, anything that can happen to this. It has killed more people than foreigners and cause war.
It's a commission.
But yet, when we want to take strong and tough action against it, the same chronic societal cynicism will come fighting you. So we have to understand this dynamic.
It's a commission of fast forward to this. A commission considers short and act as human and degrading and runs contrary to Section 20 of the 1991 Constitution.
No.
And
what commission?
The Silent Human.
That is how that is their opinion of it.
Yes, and perhaps what lends credence to this is the apology on behalf of the commission by no less a person, His Excellency the President.
Yes, the President has the right to apologize.
So
He's
in other
father
words,
of the nation.
do you still regret that particular decision?
It is not about a regret. Why should I regret a decision that produced some of the best outcomes in terms of policy reforms? Let's look at it. What happened after the Cotton Tree incidents? There was
public acceptability about it.
There was a greater attention on the issue of examination malpractice. We brought out the biggest rot ever that this country sits on. It was going to destroy generations. Children were going to go to universities who don't have proper certificates, and they were going to come back and become the leaders of society. By that single action, we were able to forestall it. There was a high-level interministerial panel on examination malpractice first ever established in the country. There was a high-level committee set up by His Excellency the President himself to examine and look into examination malpractice and to take action about it. A team of WAEC left WAEC HQ, came to this town, met with everybody, including myself. We presented the evidence with them, which led into the reform of WAEC, and the leadership structure of WAEC was changed. WAEC wrote back to us to say that they have changed the way they do examination processes in the entire West Africa as a result of all those revelations we brought to them. These things, Abdurrahman, are what you measure a successful action by, not the cynicism of people, not how people view it. People have their opinions about it. And Abdurrahman, I am sure you will agree with me that opinions were divided on the issue. There were people who they were ready to put their head on the guillotine to say this was the best thing that happened to Sierra Leone ever. And there were other people who said, no, this is not right, it's a human rights violation, it's a constitutional violation, whatever it is. There were those in the middle who said, no. If it's applied to every other person who engages in such a thing, we are fine with it. This is a calamity. Drastic actions are supposed to be applied to drastic things. So, as far as I am concerned, it is not about what I feel about it. It is about the result that came out for society. The president's apology was timely and well placed. He's the father of the nation. If he feels, even personally, that something was done, even with the best of intentions, but it is not the way he thinks it should happen, he is the 100% representative of the people. He has the right to it. We carried out an experiment that has produced tremendous results, as I have told you. But we realized that the margin of acceptability of what we can do as a people is not as high as we expected it. Because you see, the success of the fight against corruption is more about what the institution that fights corruption can do. You understand? If not, we'll be stuck in what you call there is an economist who analyzed this whereby it's a game theory, whereby your actions will cancel my own actions. So I do everything to produce results, you do everything to reverse it. So the ACC charges people to court. Instead of the judiciary finding them guilty, releases them. I'm not saying that is what is happening. I'm just telling you what could happen. The ACC charges people to court, serious offenses. Instead of the judiciary imposing strong and hefty punishments on them, they just put pittance and the man lives ever happily after. He steals 1 billion euros. He's given a file of 30 million euros. He has 900 and probably 75 million euros to enjoy. You understand? For the rest of his life. These are the realities that when you are fighting corruption, you are faced with. So, if you are somebody who wishes to succeed, I have sat down and outlined the successes that we are having. You cannot have a one-way approach to doing things. You cannot turn yourself into a processing plant to produce people and just send them to court and you sit down and do nothing and you watch all of them released and you sit down every day on television, journalists are sitting down there analyzing how you are such a useless commissioner. That is what was happening before. That is what was happening to commissioners before us. They were doing a lot of efforts to produce results for this country. No commissioner goes to that commission and decides that I am going to fail. But if it is one way and that one way is not working, you have to go back to the drawing board. You have to apply good strategy to make sure that you produce results.
So it's not an ideology of one size fits all.
It's not an ideology of one size fits all. So why we are successful, why the world is rating us high, is the diversification of approaches that I've brought. And those approaches include, one, going to court. You cannot fight corruption if you cannot have a deterrent effect where you go to court and find people guilty. That's why I'm giving you conviction rate. But also non-conviction based asset recovery. There are certain cases you look at it and say, going to court is a waste of our time. Here is the evidence is strong enough. Here is the resources. Go after the resources and get it back. In Nigeria, Sani Abacha's resources are being returned every day to Sierra Leone, to Nigeria. There were people who were involved in looting those resources.
Mr.
But
Commissioner,
you never hear of anybody saying that, oh, let's go and arrest and detain them. No, the Nigerians are more interested in the millions of dollars that are coming back from the swings back to Nigeria so that they can apply it to processes. So non-conviction access-based recovery is one of the processes. But another process which people are underestimating, which is working very well under the time I have been there, is the administrative sanctions, where we investigate and we refer you to your institution to deal with you. They can dismiss you, they can sack you, they can suspend you, they can withhold your salary, they can do things. That is happening on a massive scale. All these things are reducing the pressure we will put on court for there to be 200 cases in court and none goes forward for the next 1 year.
So it is now an express provision within the new amendment.
Oh yes. We have now amended the law to make sure that we have the free hand to do it. It's because if it is working, why not go ahead with it?
Mr. Commissioner, in your genuine disposition, when your prosecutors don't normally have a finding in court, what readily comes to mind, especially in a matter that has been thoroughly investigated, sent to court, then at the end it doesn't turn the way you wanted it? What readily comes to mind?
Well, I will first, what I do, that is why the person who leads the fight against corruption has to be a lawyer. And the idea behind it is you should be capable of understanding what is happening, particularly when it comes to judicial decisions and actions that are court-led. Now, the first thing I do when these decisions come is to review them. Once they are reviewed, sometimes we look at it and say, because you see cases, you can have the evidence, but there may be a technicality that knocks you out. And most times, anti-corruption cases that we lose it not because we don't have an evidence. If there's no evidence, I, Francis Kaifala, will never sign an indictment. But there may be a technical reason why probably that evidence does not reach the threshold required by law, which is beyond all reasonable doubt. Or because corruption investigations are such that most times the evidence is in the hands of the defense. You actually are coming from a negative position to get into the positive. Because if I am now commissioner of the ACC, I'm there, I'm sitting down all my files. If you are coming to investigate me, it's what I give you. It's what I make you access to. I could destroy them before you get there. So these are all things that we battle against. So when we end up going to court, there may be just one reason. But we also have situations where probably some judge is taking a microscope, looking for the slightest of doubt that can exist. And they are ready to free the person. How can Francis Kaifala fight against that? Money is given to a man to build a road is not there. There's an account where the money was paid, the money was withdrawn by this man. The road is not there, the money is not the account. Where is the money? If a judge looks for a microscope to look for a doubt in that kind of situation and set the man free in a corruption case, when the jurisprudence across the world, particularly in South Africa, is saying that beyond reasonable doubt is merely a guide. But in appropriate circumstances, you can deviate from it. If our judges are so bent on looking for microscopic doubts to release accused persons, Francis Kaifala cannot guard against that. That is why Francis Kaifala has diversified his fight against corruption, so that to guard against such situations. If I notice that this kind of doubt will happen, I apply an alternative approach to succeed the same result. That is to produce the good that is optimal for the country.
Does that brings you to a kind of being disoriented at any point in time?
No. I am. I tell people that I am a man with enormous game spirit. I probably it's because I have supported football for so long. No, I don't. Even when issues like the cotton tree came up, everybody was thinking that, oh, this man will be so disoriented. No. I have a serious. I think my emotional makeup is such that these things don't get to me easily, and of course I am a solution-led person. There's a problem, I don't look at the problem, I look at what to do to remedy it. That is why when the custody incidents happened, I could have lied down and wept myself to death. But the next Saturday, we went and did another raid which was even more massive than the one we did. And then the entire country saw the results that could be produced. So those who were now battering me were the ones who now were turning again to say, oh, well, this thing, it looks like maybe we should have looked at our approach differently. That is the kind of man I am. I bounce back. I don't sit down pitying myself or crying. I don't even worry about that. Is why, when journalists are saying things that are not wrong, sometimes I call you and we laugh about it and I said, oh, this man could have come to me and spoken to me. I could have given him the correct information. But I don't take it personal. I am not there to personalize the office of the commissioner.
Commissioner Ben Kaifala, furthermore, Kushala, what will you say to those who are peddling with the view that the fight against corruption seem to be making a kind of selective show of concern, concentrating your endeavor, especially so with past government officials.
I mean, how can that be true?
Well, what
Abdurrahman,
what will you
let's
say to that?
okay. Let's say yes, there are past government officials who were investigated. Okay, these very past government officers, some of them have been convicted. Some of them we have recovered billions of loans from in open and clear, transparent fashion. Some of them are still under investigation. Some of them we are waiting for the Commission of Inquiry to conclude so that we can proceed what's happening with them. But let's move away from that. Let's come to the present. Have we not investigated many people in the current government? You want us to go over the list of them? Let's start with those who took the Commission of Inquiry money.
I have those.
They were prosecuted in 2 weeks and convicted. Sierra Leone Maritime Administration, 3 cases have been investigated there, including the former head, Dr. Sarah Bendu. She's standing trial. We are recovering 800 million from her. These were all the current government. Alpha Timbo, the other people who were charged with him, Tom Kamanda, the deputy minister, Mamusu Masakwe, the nutritionist, are these people in the previous government? No, it's certainly not true. There are many. I can go on with people who we are investigating in the current government. Sometimes our investigations don't always lead to prosecution. Even people in the past government, there are many people we have investigated. When the evidence did not support a charge, we release them. Usman Fore Yansane was investigated by the ACC. Is he in court? No. We said that the evidence against him was not sufficient for us to charge him because at the time we did not have any law which guided how long he could have stayed in Sierra Leone instead of being in Ghana. This is what fairness is about. It's totally unfair for people to come and sit in studios and say, oh, the ACC is only investigating the past government. I mean, this is disingenuous, to be honest. Because the number, I'm sure if we now put a statistical representation of people investigated both in the past and present government going to 2 years, they are almost equal in themselves. So it's just one of those things you understand in a polarized society like Sierra Leone, where people analyze not really based on the truth. They know it is not true. They understand it is not true. We will not be making such progress as a country if the international community were accusing me of being selective in my work.
Okay. Grant me the opportunity to paraphrase some of your statements. You're saying we are still in a state of fragility that even the best of efforts of various governments, powerful people, tend to exploit others, while the kind-hearted people usually suffer losses.
Yes.
Are we still experiencing such a situation?
I have told you our society is afflicted by mass chronic societal cynicism, and that is a product of chronic societal. It's a behavioral problem. It's a society where bad drives out good. So I have always said, when I'm even giving my public lectures, I make an example to students. When a teacher comes to class every day, they call him Jesus never fails, and some students run out of class when they see him. It's not because there's anything wrong with that teacher. It's because there's everything wrong with the students. Some students will say, oh, this teacher every day is coming to class. What is wrong with him? Particularly when he's a maths teacher. But the man is paid to do his job. That is an expression of chronic societal cynicism. There is no. But if you are not careful, if they carry out a vote of which of the teachers should be driven out of that school, that teacher will be the first person those students are going to vote against. So, in this kind of situation, people who try to do good, people who try to produce results for the country, they are attacked. The change maker is attacked by those he wants to make the change for. And sometimes they change the change maker himself. They just change him. Either they change him to become bad or they change him by driving him out. It is for us to understand these things as a country. And probably that is why at the ACC we are doing what we have, because we understand these behavioral elements of what is happening in society. I mean, when people were calling for my head, for example, for me to resign after every good that I have done in that commission, working with the team of the commission, then it tells you that there is a problem. For one issue, they say, no, Francis Kaifala has to be removed. He should be removed. He should not be there. In fact, he should resign. There was a Facebook campaign going on. People were coming up. Is it because it was really a problem about me? No, it was really a problem about society. But one thing I can say is there is a lot of shift happening in society. there is a mass appeal happening, and a lot of more people are moving away from cynicism to be able to help us achieve the change that the society needs. And that is what leaders like us have to focus on. A result-oriented leadership. For example, when I came to sit down here, if I didn't give you statistics, give you details of the successes we are having, everything that's happening, then I'm not what the leader that I should be. But because I have done all those, people are listening, they are hearing. They are beginning to believe that, okay, let's give this young man a chance. Maybe something is happening at the ACC.
What practically I'm going to say to you is a collective views of people, especially so when the deem it's in a situation that you were spotlighted invariably for all the bad reasons. The arrest of Saluti Janjalo on Monday 11th November 2019 and the thing at the CID for almost 24 hours. Your action then in favor of the chief minister, you jump into his defense. You can agree into the detail.
No, I did not jump into the chief minister's defense.
That's okay.
I jumped on the side of the truth. I jumped on the side of the truth.
Was it not done hastily though?
It was not done hastily. We took our time. Information came that Saluti Janjalo said he has evidence that the chief minister had received 1.5 million bribe. As an anti-corruption commissioner, it is my responsibility to look into it. I reached out to him and said, Salu, can you come and give me the evidence so that we can look into this? If there is indeed evidence, I am with you. We will investigate the chief minister. Saluti Janjalo insulted me on the phone and put the phone off. The next day, without getting to him, I wrote to the bank where he said the payment was made. The bank wrote to me to say no such payment was ever received. They don't have any account for chief minister. That in fact, there is nothing of that nature that involves the chief minister with their bank, apart from a travel card which has zero payment on it. So there was nothing. Now, by the time I received that letter from the bank, Saluti Janjalo was already on the radio accusing me of being the chief minister's blue-eye boy, that I was defending the chief minister and everything. And I called and said, no. I called you for us to investigate the issue, but if you could not cooperate with me, I have even gone further and checked where you said this payment was made, and here is a letter in my hands that says that there is none. However, if the bank has told us there is nothing here, if anybody has any information concerning any bribery payment to the chief minister, bring it forward. We put out a public notice for it. To date, this was almost a year ago. Saluti Janjalo has not come up with anything beyond that allegation. Nobody has come up with anything. All that is left is that Francis Kaifala protected the chief minister. How? There is no evidence. There is no evidence. I merely stood on the side of the truth. If there was evidence, Saluti Janjalo would have been surprised what could be done. This is what public service is about. When you do good, people don't notice, but they are ready to vilify you for nothing. Even you sitting down here, I have seen you people sit down in the studio analyzing this issue very unfairly. Yes, you. But tell me, what evidence do you have? You are a journalist. You could have investigated. You could have gone to places and checked. You could have come to us to see the kind of evidence we have. But nothing like that has happened. I am not angry at you, by the way. I am just pointing out to you to understand that these are all the issues we face. And I have told you, I have a serious game spirit.
Maybe.
I understand these things. I withhold them. I understand them. And I'm ready to confront them. If anybody wants to come today to the office to see Chief Minister's file as to what we did, it's open to you. But to say that we covered up for the Chief Minister, come on. The same way it is baseless that there was any 1.5 million paid for the Chief Minister, it's the same way it is baseless that we cover up anything.
The public expectation here was then that even though it was a terrible lead, the expectation that you would have taken your time off to actually go beyond the news.
We did go beyond the news. If we did not go beyond the news, we were not going to investigate the bank. We sent notice to the bank. The bank replied by notice to say there is nothing here.
Subsequent allegation of not only the UBA bank but Eco Bank, but also the UBA bank.
We checked every bank. There was no. In fact, we checked with FIU. FIU are capable of tracking every payment that comes into Sierra Leone. every, including what comes for me, what comes for you. They are capable of seeing your account. We checked with them. Mr. FIU, do you have any evidence of any 1.5 million transfer from anybody associated with Sierra Leone mining, or even to the chief minister? Or tell us the chief minister's account anywhere it is. Show us if even $100,000 dropped into it. They came back and said this did not happen. And these are partner institutions. They are responsible for issues like that. They are responsible for financial intelligence. If those people come back to us and tell us that we did not see what you are asking for. In fact, when I spoke with the head of the institution, he was laughing and said, no, this is just one of those things. Don't bother yourself about it.
Are you surprised? Are you surprised in relation to public view that was the fastest investigation ever conducted by ISOC?
That is also a very misrepresented public view. We updated the public on where we are so far because the issue had massive public interest. And we have done it before for other institutions. To update the public as to where we are does not mean a conclusion. So we did not come and say this investigation is finished, the file is dusted. Go back to that press release we put out. We said the file remains open, and if any evidence come forward, and if people have evidence, let them come forward so we can proceed. And we did proceed with it. Not because evidence came forward, because we had said this is merely an update. But instead of people looking at this as an update, they viewed it as a conclusion. Not because ACC said so, but because their own cynicism said so. And there's nothing Francis Kaifala can do about that, to be honest. But Francis Kaifala kept saying, and the PR team at the ACC kept saying, and everybody who were working for the ACC kept saying, this investigation is still open. It's been 1 year. Where is the evidence? If there is, we'll act on it. And I am still saying, here, now, in this studio, that file remains open. If evidence comes forward, we'll investigate.
Irrespective of a personality.
It does not matter who is the personality, to be honest. I mean, he's a respectful personality. He's a hard-working person who has developed his own CV and profile. We are not there to attack, to smear him. But we are an evidence-based and evidence-led investigation institution. If there is no evidence, there is no evidence. I am sorry.
Now, but Kaifala, what makes a very good case in court?
A very good case in court is a case that has the evidence to support it. That's a good case.
That makes a very good case.
Yes. Evidence that supports all the elements of the offense charge. So if we charge you with misappropriation of public fund, first of all, you have to be a person. So it does not mean whether you are a public officer or not. It does not matter. The funds must have been given to you or available to you, and you misapplied it, and you did so with the necessary criminal intent. If those elements are there, bingo.
What, in your view, constitutes a very good judgment in court when cases related to ACC?
A very good judgment is a judgment that is based on the law and not the emotion or sentiments of the judge.
In the absence of that, that's a very good case.
Yes, a good case is the one that applies the law to the facts, and not because the judge feels anything or does not believe what the ACC is saying. Or
are you envisaging a situation where perhaps one day you will sit all by yourself and say, I'm tired with this job because of specific restraints, I'll call it quits?
Well, I'm a human being. I have my own plans in life. I have my own minimum content. There are things I can accept or cannot accept. Those things are my guiding principles. As long as those things are not touched, I think I'll be able to go to the limit which I have set myself in the fight. But if those things are touched, either because I believe that my vision and actions are no longer in sync with what probably the objective of the country is at the time, then that is the time that I may say, well, this is it. But so far, it's a good journey. I continue to enjoy the confidence of the president. I continue to enjoy his respect, as I respect him very much. I see him as somebody who has a good heart for the country. And I spoke with him before I took up the job, and I know what we discussed. And we remain committed to that particular ethos, and we are leading towards it. But everybody has his own, we call it the red line. A human being without a red line is not a principled human being. And when things go below your red line, that is the time you can look at, you can reassess your situation.
I want to point out to you that referencing me as one of those sitting in the studio talking about a misrepresentation of your job perhaps could be an embodiment of the conscience of the profession, not practically me doing that.
Yes.
But in all of these...
That is why I don't hold it against you. You know you are my man.
In all of these, let's look a little bit about the system and process review. How has that engagement yielded the required dividend?
Yeah, systems and processes review is actually the prevention aspect of our work. So there are times when we look at an institution, we don't want to wait. Like I said, we are not running a fire brigade kind of anti-corruption effort. We are not here to arrest people. We are not here to make sure people fall foul. We are not sitting down like a cat waiting for the mouse to come out. We send in, for example, we look at NATCOM. We send in a team to look at what is happening in NATCOM. They do two things. There is what we call a corruption risk assessment. To look at the system of decision making and action taken in NATCOM to see whether there is a corruption risk along those lines. And most times you will notice that there is a corruption risk when there is a concentration of monopoly and there is a concentration of discretion. So if one man has monopoly of decision making, that is a problem. If one man has a concentrated discretion, which means he can wake up this morning and decide that there should be no electricity in this room, and later decide that there should be electricity in this room, then there's a problem. So they do those corruption risk assessments and do their recommendations. They can also do what we call systems and processes review, which is more about, for example, how is decision made for money to be withdrawn from the bank? Is it one man just sits down and fills his own voucher and signs it? Or is it a process along the line? How many signatories are attached to the bank account of this particular institution in the bank? Because the more signatories you have, the more you reduce the risk of collusion or discretionary action. So these are the kinds of things that they do, and then they review everything and come out with a recommendation, and that recommendation is developed into a policy, and that policy is applied to the institution to make sure that corruption is avoided.
What is this true story with the professor at Ijala University that, in the views of many people, flaunted his academic credentials?
Well, we received a complaint from the professor's colleagues at Ijala University that he was not he did not have the credentials that he was saying that he had. That included his professorship, his PhD, his master's degree, and even his law degree that he got from the university. So the issue came to us. We looked into it. We even sent a team to Nigeria, spent weeks there working with the EFCC to check all the credentials of this professor in various institutions. We were able to confirm that indeed he has the qualifications that he said he had, particularly in Nigeria. Professorship, there was no direct professorship conferred on him, but there were letters given to him that he was visiting professors at the University of Uganda and one other university in Kenya, which is what he was relying on to say he was a professor. That is neither here nor there, but we give him the benefit of the doubt. So we came out to the conclusion that he was being wrongly accused.
Did the ACC apologize?
Why does the APC have to apologize?
So
why does the ACC have to apologize for doing his work? We received a complaint. We looked into the complaint fairly. We came out to the conclusion to apologize for what?
So the outcome of it is that he got his credentials right.
The outcome of it was that
contacted the university.
the outcome was it that the report that his credentials were fake was untrue. And we communicated this to him, we communicated this to the Nigeria Embassy, we communicated this to Ijala University, we communicated it to everybody concerned. Why should we apologize?
So it was never a sense of failure in your investigation?
It was the biggest success. Our investigation is not always to prove people that they are criminals, that they are corrupt. No.
You're looking extremely bold in all of your responses.
Because when you have a clean heart in what you do, when you do things professionally, you know you can hold your head up high and defend it. And that's what I'm doing. I mean, how can you tell me to apologize for finding somebody's credentials were correct? It does that make sense to you? I can't understand these things. I mean,
personal damage been done on the person of the professor. In the first place, he's not a holder of a PhD, and he flaunted on his academic credentials.
Okay, and that was an accusation that
proven right at the
that
end.
was an accusation that came from a complaint. It did not come. I don't know Professor Benga. I never said that he does not have his degree. Somebody complained to me that he does not have a degree, and I looked into it. And came out with a conclusion based on that. I told you, we sent people to Nigeria. It's not just like we sat down in Freetown and took a decision. People went from the University of Ibadan, went to the University of Ilorin, went to the Lagos Law School, went to different institutions.
And there you
At
derive
our
the truth.
cost, we spent over $6,000 on that
And there you
investigation.
derive the truth.
And we came out with the truth and we communicated it. Should that be something I should be ashamed of? Should that be something that I should hold my head down for? No, I should be very proud of it. That I have a team that is professional enough to dig the truth up and come out with it. Professor Benga came to me after he was on the. I mean, we sat down and we discussed it here and I in my office afterwards, and he himself agreed that he agrees that we did a professional job. I mean, his reputation may have been tainted in the process, but we have a job to do. We have a job to do. When people are accused for an accusation of corruption is as bad as corruption itself. So all those people we are investigating and exonerating, do you want us to apologize to all of them? Then what will be the purpose of our work? We will be a bundle of apologists running all over the place. No. Our purpose is to look into issues dispassionately and fairly and come out with a conclusion.
Is the commission, as we speak, currently zooming into the COVID-19 response activities?
Very much so. As you know, we set up the...
Were you slightly taken aback when an attempt was made to pass a bill in Parliament forbidding the transparency and accountability activities of COVID-19?
Well, I saw it like every other person. I think that it's an emergency situation. A lot of people are trying to ensure that systems are put in place that do not clog the process of ensuring that we respond quickly to COVID issues. So I did not see it as an attempt to do anything wrong. I saw it as a move to try to solve a problem, but issues are around it, which I am sure they've had, and they may have taken steps around it. Whether I was taken aback, no, I was not taken aback. I saw it more. I have told you, I look at issues from a solution point of view. I don't look at issues from a problem point of view, because problems do not solve themselves. So it's about engaging those who are concerned to say, don't you think if this becomes law, this will be the problem? However, that entire thing did not house the jurisdiction of the ACC. The ACC can investigate corruption irrespective of whatsoever is in that provision. So I was not taken aback at all.
The relationship between the Commission and the House of Parliament in terms of assuming the statutory responsibility when it comes to corruption-related cases. What is the line of distinction between the Commission,
The relationship, Commission and
the Parliament?
well, Parliament have
Who takes supremacy?
Parliament has a accountability committee which looks into issues of audit mostly, but they also serve as an oversight body for the ACC, and our relationship is very good. We have an MOU between us. We have an understanding what we engage in. When it comes to audit, there is a little bit more tolerance between us and them. For the first time, you saw Parliament writing to us to take action on audit, even without them considering it. So one thing I did was, when I became commissioner, was not to become confrontational with Parliament, was to engage them. Understand where we all are coming from in our respective mandates, see how we can create synergy, understand that the purpose is the same, is to create a very beautiful accountability space for Sierra Leone, and it has worked out very well. That is why before you used to see Parliament and ACC at each other's throat. In recent times you don't see that, but we are investigating a lot of issues arising out of audits, and we do so in consultation with them. Sometimes they know what we are doing, and I think this is something which we can build on for the future. And what is happening in Sierra Leone is really, really useful, because it's not happening in other countries. The way how the anti-graft institution is interacting with the audit that is coming now out of the audit service is something which is worth copying in other African countries.
2 years into your appointment now, how much are you into realizing the ambition of His Excellency the President when he reiterated that the fight must be corruption is a fight we must win, and it is a fight we will win? How nearing are we into such proposition?
I believe that, in fact, one of the things that has happened with the fight against corruption, when I came in, we set a performance target for ourselves, for myself. A lot of things I hope to achieve in 3 years. Most of them were achieved in 1 year. A lot of them have been achieved in these 2 years. If you now go, I want you to go and take the president's manifesto. Okay? Look at the areas that he mentioned what he will do about the fight against corruption. And look at everything we have done at the ACC. You will see that on this 2-year mark, we have done more than 92% of it. Only one is left. The public declaration of assets. Which really is not in my hands. It's Parliament who can pass the law that supports that. But every other manifesto promise of His Excellency, on the fight against corruption, whether it's policy reform, whether it's action, whether it's strong action, whether it's decision making, whether it's the direction that institutions should go, is being achieved on a scale that I believe we ourselves did not expect. We did a manifesto check, my team and I. We did a check with the President's manifesto. Where are we? Trust me, we were shocked that 95% had been achieved. And this is only 2 years. So, and I want you to go and do it. And I want you to invite me, let's engage on it. You will see what I'm saying and what I'm telling you. It tells you that the President's promise in the fight against corruption is being realized. There is nothing left behind. And this is only 2 years that I have been there. We have another 3 years to go. So we are going to continue consolidating those gains, bringing in new reforms, being the beacon of hope for Africa, making sure that people come to study our actions in Sierra Leone and go and apply in their country as it's happening now. And of course, for us to ensure that corruption control is more realistic than perceptual. So my focus is not what people think. My focus is not about what we have in our mind, what Francis Kafala. My focus is to go beyond statistics and to make sure when Abdulrahman passes through a checkpoint where they used to ask him for money before, he can now pass and nobody asks him, and Abdulrahman will tell himself, lo and behold, Sierra Leone can change. That is what I'm working for.
So, Commissioner, let's end this discussion looking at the retention capability with recovery monies. What is a percentage of retention that you have?
10%.
All of this, 10%.
Yes, by law. 10%.
Is your budgetary support from the government coming regularly?
Yes, the government is really supporting our work. We get our, sometimes delayed, but we do get our, whatever is approved. It may not be what we want. Sometimes they cut it down. We'll go to say our recurrent expenditure will be 10 billion euros. They will only approve probably 6 billion or 8 billion, as the case may be. But whenever they've approved, they will always provide it. Apart from that, there are times when we need additional support. We go to the Ministry of Finance and say, look, for example, recently we wanted to do promotions for female. I realized that there's a female deficit in terms of leadership in the commission. They are not positioned for them to become managers, for them to become directors, for them to become deputy directors in the next 3, 4, 5 years. So I sent a budget to say I need to promote female to such position that when those times come for us to make directors, female representation will be there. The Ministry of Finance gave their approval, and 15 female were promoted across the board. That is an extra approval that came. So that is the kind of relationship we have with the Ministry of Finance, and we are enjoying a very good support from the Ministry of Finance.
So, Commissioner, before I say thank you so very much for honoring this invitation, being part of this program today, what will you say to our viewership with respect to the case at hand for those officials at the ACC who got themselves embroiled into monetary issues with the NACSA fund?
The investigation is complete. The conclusion is a bit different from what was presented in public. We found out that contrary to what the claim was on television, on the AYV TV, these people who said that NACSA personnel were involved in doing X, Y, Z, it was not more of NACSA personnel or ACC personnel who were doing it. It was the people themselves who would register and go and bring somebody else to take money on their behalf. And when they take money on their behalf, the person now takes 250,000 leones, and this person who brought him now comes and says, I brought you. So instead of you getting 250 million leones, 250,000 leones, you're only going to get 40,000 leones. So our investigations do not support the claim that was made in public, and we are sending that letter to NACSA today, and we'll take things forward from there.
Lastly and quickly, what's your relationship with former anti-corruption head, the
Oh,
Fitzgerald Kamara?
Oh no. I mean, we have a very good relationship. For example, Joseph Kamara is a brother. We had a relationship before I became commissioner. He knows that, and even now, when there are issues that are complex, and I need his own views and opinions, I will get to him to know what will be done. I will call him for things. He will call me. He will text me when he has things. The same thing. Abuti Jankol is like a mentor to me. I consult him on many issues, and he gives his own opinions and guides my own direction and path. Adi Macaulay is also a friend. We were friends before. In fact, I was closer to Adi Macaulay than any of these people I'm calling, and that relationship continues. It may not have been very rosy at the beginning, but we have found a way to mend fences, and we are fine. We are dealing. We are going on very well. So when it comes to particularly this last generation anti-corruption, starting with Tijan Cole coming down, I have a good relationship with them. The older generation, those ones I have not been able to interact with much.
Thank you so very much, Commissioner Ben Kepala, for honoring this invitation, being part of this program this morning.
Thank you, Abdurrahman. Like I always say, you are a very good interviewer. The array of issues that we cover when I'm with you is really important and significant.
I'm looking forward to having you subsequent editions.
This is not something I get often in other places, so I must commend you for being a very good journalist. Keep it up.
Thank you so very much, sir.
Yes, you're welcome.
And this is how I bring on the curtain into this edition of the program, Good Morning Show, with my guest being the head of the anti-graft in the country, lawyer Francis Ben Kepala. Till then, my name is Abdurrahman Kamara. Have a very wonderful day.